I'm going to show you how to use the Movavi Video Editor. This is a beginner's tutorial for those of you who want to get started video editing. My name's Anthony Allen, welcome here to the channel. This is one type of video content that I create here. Let's show you how to start video editing today. So you can see here, this is giving us an example of how you can import your files. What this means is if you have a video, music, or picture file, you will be able to put this inside of your video editor, the Movavi Video Editor, so you can start using it inside of your project. Now you can see when you're starting with the free trial version, you have an example of how you can do this. You can add files by dragging it into this section here, and the way you would do that is to minimize, then find your file. In this example, I'm going to drag in a video file here. You can see that the file is in the browser. That file has been successfully dragged into the browser. That is the easiest way you can import your media into the Movavi Video Editor. The timeline. This is where you would drag and drop your media so you can start video editing, whether that be to create a transition or add an effect to that piece of media, or use it in a layer, which we'll get into a little bit later, as most video editors work with layers. To start making videos, drag your files from the media bin to the timeline. So in this video editor, the media bin is your browser. This is where you will find the media that you have imported into the video editor for this specific project. Most video editors today have tools available. This is what you can use to add an effect or more to your video or audio footage. And that is what this example is showing you here. A great example that I like to use when I'm teaching people how to use a video editor is a noise remover, because there are two different types of noise your media can have. You can have background noise to an audio footage, which can be, for example, the air around a voice that's speaking, that shh that would be around when you're speaking. That is a type of noise to your audio footage. But you can also have noise grain, which is that grainy look that you may have on top of low lighting footage. And that is why I like to use the noise removal as an example of a tool or effect you can change your piece of media with, as there are two different types of noise in media. You now have the more quick use tools. Now the more quick use tools are the things that you use in order to select, or a type of selection that you would usually make in the timeline. For example, there are some scissors here, and this is so you can make a cut to a piece of media. There is also the crop tool that I can see here, which will allow you to crop a piece of media. And then you have the export option. The export option is usually what you use to export a video footage. This is the final finished completed project that you have created within the timeline. A most common video file format is MP4. But there are other different types of export options that a video editor will have available. I'd also like to point out that right here to the right hand side is the export button, and you can also see a drop down there allowing you to export in different ways. I want more media inside of my project because this is not the only piece of media I want to use in my project here. So up here at the top you can see File Import. I can now drag a piece of media into this section here, but there are a few other options that I also have available. You can record video, capture screencast, record audio, and slideshow wizard. Now this will take you through a few steps of how you can create a simple slideshow. I'm not going to select this because we want to create a video file, and not really a slideshow effect. The record audio option, of course, this will access or ask for access to your microphone of your device that you're using when using this video editor. The capture screencast, of course, will then use your components of your computer, laptop, or device that you're using in order to capture what's on the screen. And then record video is a completely different option that looks like it will be for your webcam, as this is a webcam icon here. So record video will then access your webcam device, or what device you have available in order to record video footage of yourself via a camera. Now that we're happy with what we see here and we understand what this is, let's select Add File, because I want to find my file. Now I can go through different places and locations on my device in order to find what I need. What I need is AA Super, and I'm looking for my voiceover footage here, my voiceover audio, sorry. We're going to select this now by double clicking, and now that is available in the browser, or what this calls it, the bin. We now finally have the two pieces of media that I want to use in order to create my video. From here, I'm going to drag in the video footage that I want to use. This is very important because this is going to change the project if I leave it as it is. What this message means is it is asking me if I want to change the aspect ratio of my entire project. This could determine what aspect ratio I'm enabled to export at. So because this video footage is very small and is not 1080p and is not at the setting of the project, it is asking me if I want to make the entire project canvas smaller. I don't want to do this, as I want to edit my video footage so it fits a wider aspect ratio. So in this example, I'm going to select Don't Change, but see what happens here. I've selected Don't Change. Let's quickly go over this message before I can show you what that means. Here it says Smart Background Removal. So this video editing software has an AI, an artificial intelligence, that can navigate through your video footage to find background pixels or background footage and try to remove it to give you a focus point. Now the artificial intelligence will try to find out what the main focus point is of that piece of footage, and then we'll try to remove anything else in the footage. That is what this artificial intelligence is doing here. I don't want to do this as there are multiple focus points throughout this video here, and I'm not quite sure what I want to focus on just yet. There is also the intro to the video, which only really has a wisp on the screen. It's really small what the focus is in the shot. Remember that before you start using this artificial intelligence, because it could remove parts of your video footage that you don't want to remove, and it could focus on something that you're not focusing on, talking about or explaining or showing in your video footage. Now that we understand that and we understand what this message means, let's select Got It. You can also try this out. Good. We have now finally set our project accordingly. Let's quickly move along the timeline. So you can see here, we're left with these black bars in the preview here. This is completely empty, so there is no video footage in this section here. And when you export, you will be left with these black bars. I wanted to show you this with a smaller piece of media so that you understand what is meant by the aspect ratio, and also how the canvas of your video project works. You can change the canvas of your video project, and that would be the project settings that we've just mentioned that could have changed to the smaller canvas of the actual video. Now let's say that you have a lot of media in your bin here. You can actually filter out what you see so you can find what you need. For example, you can select video. This will show you all of the video files that you currently have in your project that you can drag into your timeline for editing. And you can also do a music filter. This will give you all of the audio files. But as well as this, if you're on the all section and you have quite a lot of files here, you can also search for what you need. For example, here, let's search for the voiceover. I'm going to select Super VO, and that will now filter to the file that I'm looking for, whether it be audio or video. Now make sure you're in the right section when you're searching. If you're searching for a music file alone and you have quite a lot of music or audio files, make sure that you also have the all or music in that instance. Let's get rid of this filter now, this search term, as I've searched by name. Now, as well as your own pieces of media that you can drag into your timeline for your final finished project, you can also add titles and other pieces of media that is provided inside of the Movavi Video Editor. You can see this on this side menu just here. There are a few options. For example, audio. You can add audio that the software provides. You can also filter by the type of music, for example, energetic, calm, romantic, and upbeat. You have video titles, where you can add titles to your project. Let's give you a very quick example right here. So I'm going to drag in a simple title onto the top layer above the video, and you will see that it is now available. You can also make it move here, so there is a few keyframes that can be added, and you can move your title around. There is a built-in motion tab which allows you to move your title accordingly or follow a piece of media or follow a focus point in that piece of media using that AI that is available. I'm going to select Great. So you can see we have our title here. You can also see that motion tab that was mentioned in that example just there. You can type what you need in your title section here. For example, I'm going to type my name. I can then use the on-screen controls to then change what I want accordingly. So now I've selected this part of the title, I can now use this in the bin here. I've used caps lock. Remember that you can also change the font accordingly. You can also see that this title is represented on the timeline as this little icon here. This is quite small, and if you have quite a lot of things going on, it will be really hard to select what you need. So in order to zoom in on your timeline, you can move to this minus and plus icon here, and you can drag the scroller accordingly to zoom into your timeline and find and select what you need. Once I have this selected, I can move it around on the timeline accordingly. Do keep note that this is attached to a piece of media, and there is a slight little line that you can see just there. I might try to zoom in to see if it gets any larger. Let's move along the timeline a little bit. As you can see, when you're zoomed in, moving across the timeline can be a little bit tedious and can be a bit of a pain. So using the zoom out and zoom in feature is very useful, and that is an example of that just there, of why that zooming in and out can be extremely useful. It can also help you make precision cuts, so you can cut in the place that you want to make your cut in that piece of media to either change to a piece of media, create a transition, or more. You can also trim the piece of media by grabbing the edge of it and dragging up and down along the timeline. And it's also represented because it has a transition. This piece of text has a transition. It will be represented on screen on the preview just there. What happens if you don't want that piece of media? Let's take this title for example. I have this selected, and you can see that yellow selection around that title. To the left here, you can see a bin icon. This is to delete. By pressing this, it will delete that piece of media. That change is no longer there. Now that I've taken you through that, let's show you how we can make a change to our piece of media. Now, with this piece of media, I don't want the whole film. I want a part of the film. So first, I'm going to go through my timeline by scrubbing through and finding what I want. What I want is the intro where it's talking about Superman. You can see that we have our sound waves here. You can see when the audio begins. But you can also play through if you're unsure by pressing spacebar.
A speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive.
So we know that this is the audio that I want to find. This is what I want. I'm going to select the front of where this begins. I'm also going to zoom in so I can make a cut at the right place. As you've noticed there, when I was zoomed out, it looked like I was at the end, but I was actually cutting off a piece of that audio. I'm going to scrub across the timeline until I get to the start, and now I want to make my cut. At this point, I've just noticed that if I try to select this quick tool, I won't be able to use it until I've selected the piece of media. It will then be lit up, if you will, and then you can select the tool that you want to use. In this example, we're going to use split. I don't actually have to use my mouse to split. It will split where the timeline pointing head is actually positioned. So if the playhead is in that position, that is where the split will be made. Let's say you've made a split that you don't want to make. You can undo the action. There is a shortcut for undo, but let's take you into where you can find it within the software. Undo will be under the Edit tab, or you can use the shortcut on your keyboard by pressing the Control button and Z. I like to do this as this is how I like to edit. I like to use the shortcut. So I do not want this media to the left that is remaining. So I'm first going to select this, and then I'm going to select the delete. I'm now going to zoom out to see where my media moved accordingly, as we have a slight magnetic timeline there. Automatically, the media that is remaining has been pushed to the start of the timeline. So do keep note when you're making your splits and then you're deleting pieces of media, your media will be magnetic and move into the empty space. Let's show you how to make a transition. As we've made a simple cut, but transitions can also be added to your piece of media to give it a different effect or feel. Here we're going to select a part of piece of media that doesn't really need a cut, so I can give you a great example of how this works. Here the movie is talking about Superman's X-ray vision. I'm going to make a split in this section here by selecting the media. Oops, it's moved slightly. Do you keep note of that? Then going to make a split, and then I'm going to go to a completely different part of the movie where it's showing something completely different by scrubbing with the playhead into something that correlates to something completely different. Newspaper article, for example. Then I'm going to make another split by selecting the piece of media. You need to select in the right place, making a split. Then I'm going to delete this piece of media. And then from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the transitions. Then I'm going to add a transition to this hard cut here. To add a transition between clips, select a transition and place it between the clips on the timeline. Got it. So what this means is from the transitions menu, you're going to select a transition. In this example, I'm going to use something that should be really jarring so I can show you the difference. For example, right here, if I select lens and I drag this in, you can see that it's going to fill that gap, and you can also see that the transition is represented by that little grey box over the two clips. I'm going to scrub my playhead to that transition so you can see it on screen. You can see the transition beginning to take place in the preview, but I'm going to zoom in to the timeline here because I think I can change the length of the transition. So by selecting the transition here, you can see that you can grab the edge and you can make the transition larger. So this transition will take place over a larger period of time, which will be very jarring. Let's play this through to show you what this looks like.
More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single
The transition
bound.
has begun to take place.
Stranger from the planet Krypton.
You can see that it's wiping through the shot in a very odd way in the preview just there. If I remove the transition, so let's select the transition, right click, remove transition, it will then become that hard cut. Now it was a bit of a fluke that the music was still playing on the other part of the movie there, but you can see what I mean. It jumped from one part of the movie into the other very sharply and quickly. This is what you call a hard cut or a jump cut. So now I want to undo these actions because I want the media back. I can either go up to the edit, or I can press Ctrl-Z until I get back to the point in which I want it to be. And quite quickly there, Ctrl-Z shortcut is saving me a lot of time. I'm going to play through this piece of media now because I want to find the part in which I want to actually make a cut. By pressing the spacebar and scrubbing with the timeline.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive.
I can find what I need.
Tall buildings at a single bound. This amazing stranger from the planet Krypton, the Man of Steel, Superman.
Right there is where I want to make my transition. So I'm going to cut here and I'm going to show you why. So about here, after Superman's name has been announced, I'm going to make a split. Here in the second piece of media, I can change the audio levels. By hovering my mouse there, you can see that I can drag up and down the audio level of that second part of media. I'm going to do this and take the decibel level all the way to the ground. This will give it no sound. Let's show you what this looks like. Scrubbing with the playhead again. Let's press play.
Superman.
There is no audio on that second part of media there, but the media remains. So I have this to fill up with audio if I want. That's when we're going to go into our media bin, by pressing that plus sign in the import section. We're going to find our audio and we're going to drag this underneath. So here we have a noise removal message. The software is letting you know that it uses artificial intelligence to try to remove any unwanted noise from your audio. In this example, we're going to select Got It, but you can try this out. So the audio has now been added. I now want to remove anything that remains after my voiceover is finished. So scrubbing with the playhead, I'm going to find the end of the footage. I can also zoom in for that precision. Moving the playhead again, I'm going to make a split. By selecting a piece of media, making a split, removing the piece of media that I don't need. So right there, I've begun to create what I wanted to create. I can also add a title here because I want to add a title. So let's add a title to give this another effect. Simply dragging it into the timeline. Type in what I need, in this example, presenter, Anthony Allen. Remember, there are also on-screen controls for your text titles. So in this example, I need to make this box slightly bigger or move it accordingly. If I drag this along, of course, it will give you a longer length. You can also select on top of it to move it on that screen. There's a rotation because I've selected the top half just there. If it's rotated to a position that I don't want, or I've moved it to a position I don't want, again, you can use Control Z. One of the most useful things that you can do when video editing is Control Z. Let's say you've undone too much and you want to reverse that change, you can also redo. So going into the edit menu here at the top, you can also redo, which would be Control and Y. Remember that different video editing platforms have different shortcuts. Not all shortcuts are the same when you're video editing. There are also on-screen annotations showing you when you are center image. So if I'm center of the canvas, or this is positioned in the center of the canvas, there is a green line that is given, and I can move up and down this green line. This is to help you position things accordingly. This message is letting me know about the change of my video canvas compared to the video. Remember, we mentioned that earlier. The video is actually a smaller size than the canvas. You can also add filters to your footage. For example, here's a filter that's being given, and you're also given an example. You can add camera shake, glowing edges, glass mosaic, which would be a hard example of how this works, and a lot more. Think of this as different types of filters that you can add to your footage optionally. For example, pop art for tiles. Let's drag this on top of this footage here. I will be undoing it because it's not the effect that we want. But just to give you an example of what that looks like, you can see it on screen just here. We go to undo that option because we don't want that effect. There are different types of effects. At the moment, we're on the featured menu in the effects panel just here. You can add noise, adjustments, artistic, blur, color filters, flying objects. Let's scroll down a bit more. Light leaks, which will give you the effect of, if you've seen the recent remake of Star Trek movies, sorry, there was a lot of light leaks in that movie, and lens flare, that would be those type of effects. Let's just click it to show you. So if you have a look now, you can see some lens flare there. J.J. Abrams, when it actually allows me to give me a preview. So if you click it, you can have a preview of what that lens flare looks like. It should be something a lot harsher than that. There we go, there's a little bit of glow that you can see just there. Let's give you another lens flare. So that's another lens flare to give you an idea. Bit more, some light leaks. A harsher light leak, to give you an idea of what those are. Mosaic, which will give you a sort of distortion mosaic look. So for example, if I click on the preview just here, you can see the pixels, a mosaic effect. That glass mosaic that we had a look at earlier, this will be over the top of your piece of footage. There's also retro, so there are retro filters as well. For example, Tube TV. Now there are also stickers that you can add to your pieces of footage. These are stickers that you can add over the top of your piece of footage to give it the desired effect. There are the featured, and again you have your categories where you can select through and find the sticker that is right for you. Now you can see that some of these packs here are actually things that you need to purchase and download. So there is a purchase and download feature within this software, and you can purchase and download some of these packs here, which will give you different types of title intros and more. As well as that, you also have some built-in things that you can use. For example, chroma keying, which is green screen, color adjustments, crop and rotate, position, pan and zoom, and a lot more. Let's say that this harsh transition, the audio cuts out too sharply. You can actually change this accordingly. By selecting your piece of footage with an audio that's attached to it, because that's what we're using here, we're using a video footage that has audio attached to it, we can select something different. So in this example, what we're going to do is we're going to select this icon right here, clip properties. By selecting the clip properties, you can now change things accordingly, including a fade out or fade in. If we wanted to fade out the audio, you could slide this cursor here, and you can see on the timeline where the audio is actually changing. And if you were to zoom in on the timeline there, you would have an even better look. So when I apply more fade in, you can see the audio actually fading in. So it gives you an idea as to where the fade out takes place. You also have the seconds applied to the fade in when you're sliding accordingly. You can also reverse the clip, which I'm not sure why you would want to reverse the entire clip, but you can actually reverse the clip. You can change the speed of the clip, and you can also normalize the audio. So if your audio is peaking, maybe too loud or too quiet, you can apply a normalize effect here. One thing that I like to do when video editing is moving to the last frame to make sure the last frame is not an empty frame. If your last frame is empty, you will get a blank screen. Now, some video editors don't let you export with that setting, but there are a lot of video editors that do. So what I like to do is scroll to the end to see if either I can move further, or sometimes you're given a visual cue to that you've reached the end of the footage and there's nothing else that can be applied. In this example with this video editor, there is no visual clue that you have reached the end because you can't move any further when you're scrubbing using the playhead. You need to select the playhead in order to scrub through the timeline. Or press play and then of course stop or pause. Now that I'm happy with what I have here, let's do the export. So I'm going to select the export button right here. Now, because we're using the free trial version and not the full version, you actually have a watermark over the top of the footage. You can save in trial mode, or you can use a activation key when you've purchased the software in order to have no watermark and no restrictions. Let's select save in trial mode to see what this does. So now we have some options for exporting. Let's quickly go through these options here. Now in these options, you can save to a specific location on your device. If I browse here, I can browse to a location which is applicable. In this example, I'm actually going to select the desktop. So let's find my desktop, which should be right here. I'm going to select desktop and I'm going to select the entire desktop folder so it goes to my desktop. I then have the quality. So you have draft, good, and high. In this example, I'm going to leave it as good. The resolution, which is the canvas size usually, you can see that it's 1920 by 1080. The duration of this video is 29 seconds. We could not go any further if the media was not applied to the timeline. And then you have the estimated file size. In this estimated file size, under this format that we're going to be exporting at, which is MP4, this will be 13 megabytes to 49 megabytes. This is an estimation and won't be the full size. So if you are struggling for size, really 49 megabytes shouldn't be an issue. This is quite a small file for the video that we're exporting. There's also different export formats that you can use: MOV, which is QuickTime, AVI, MP4, which is what we're using, WMV, which is Windows Media Video, and MKV, and more. So you can select what is applicable to you. If you're in the US and not the EU or the UK, NTSC would be what you would be using for your DVDs, but you can actually purchase these DVDs in the UK as well. PAL is the regular usage DVD that is being used here in the UK if you are still using DVDs. DVDs are quite rare nowadays. You can also export in different types of files that aren't video based. For example, you can save as an audio file. You can save for devices. Now this will optimize your export for a specific device. So if you're exporting for Apple devices, this will most likely be in an MOV, as that is what Apple use. Now you can also use MP4 on those devices, but do keep that in mind when you're exporting for specific devices. Some devices don't play a type of media, or you may need a different media player in order to play a specific video format or audio format. And also when you're uploading to social media, there are different formats that are best for social media. And there is share. Now what the share is going to be to your platforms. If I select this, it will give me the option to sign in to my platforms, for example YouTube, Google Drive, Vimeo, and TikTok. So if you used to sign in to those platforms using this gateway, then you will be able to share directly to either of these destinations. If we go back up to the video format now, I'm going to give this a title. Let's call this Superman Documentary, as the video is about Superman doc. It's going to be exported to the desktop. The file format that we're going to be doing is MP4, and I'm going to select start. What that will do in the trial version is it will export that video that we've just created, but with a watermark on top of it until the software is purchased. When the software is purchased, if I come back to this file, that can be saved, then you can export it without a watermark. Now you can open the output folder automatically, or you can uncheck this and select OK.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings at a single bound, this amazing stranger from the planet Krypton, the Man of Steel, Superman.
Superman has been a main staple of DC Comics, and in this documentary we're going to talk about the subtle changes to the Superman character over the years. My name is Anthony Allen. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this documentary that I've created for you. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget I also teach you how to video edit in different video editing softwares, and there are those tools that I am using for my content creation that I also share with you on the Anthony Allen YouTube channel. Definitely a lot more to have a look at. I've also done a full beginner's guide of how to use Final Cut Pro 10, and there are also some Final Cut Pro 10 tools that I am using, some plugins and more that is well worth checking out, as it can save you a lot of time and help you with your video editing. My name is Anthony Allen. Thank you for watching. Thank you for enjoying the efforts. Comment down below if this has been helpful to you, and if you have any questions, let me know. I teach video editing. It's one of the things that I do here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And remember, you are awesome. Thanks for watching.